It's funny. When we think about what's going to ultimately destroy a functioning society, we usually think of, a massive economic collapse.
Right, or like some foreign army invading.
Yeah, exactly. Something huge and external. But what if the actual ultimate threat to our political systems is, well, just a mother refusing to tell her 3-year-old no?
I mean, it sounds totally absurd when you phrase it like that.
It really does. But today we are taking a deep dive into an ancient text that claims the exact same psychological flaw ruining our family dinners is the one collapsing entire nations.
It is a really profound trajectory. We are looking at Proverbs chapter 29 today, and we're exploring it through this incredibly detailed exegesis study essay compiled by Frank Leo.
And I have to say, just the document itself shows how universal this problem is.
Oh, the signature alone is fascinating.
The authors signed it in 4 different languages. It's got English, Chinese as Luzanteng, Hebrew as Moshe Halevi or Leavening, and Greek as Phraikistos Moises Lukitakis.
Which perfectly sets the stage for us. It tells you right away that we aren't just skimming the surface of some old book. This is a deep cross-cultural excavation.
Absolutely. And the context is so important for you listening to understand. These proverbs are the climactic end to the Hezekiah collection.
Yeah, compiled around, 715 to 686 BC?
Exactly, right during King Hezekiah's Great Revival. So you have this society literally trying to pull itself back from the brink of destruction.
They are desperately trying to collect the absolute bedrock wisdom they need to survive. And what's wild is that the text doesn't start with, sweeping government reform.
No, it forces you to look in the mirror first.
Right. Verse 1 sets this baseline. It says, "A man of reproofs who hardens his neck will suddenly be broken beyond remedy."
And we really have to stop and unpack the original language there because the imagery is just so visceral.
It really is.
Because when we hear hardens his neck today, we just think, someone's being a little stubborn, right?
Yeah, like they're just set in their ways. But the Hebrew phrase there is maki oref, and it paints a very specific physical picture.
Like an agricultural metaphor. Right?
Exactly. It's drawing on the image of an ox. The master's trying to guide the ox, trying to place the yoke on it to give it some direction.
Okay.
But the ox stiffens the back of its neck, the oref, and it just locks its muscles to completely resist the guidance.
Wow.
And the text intentionally contrasts that rigid posture with the Hebrew word mapeh, which means healing or remedy.
So when your neck is locked like that, the remedy literally can't reach you.
Right, it just bounces off.
That reminds me of someone ignoring a check engine light on their dashboard.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
You're driving down the highway, the light starts flashing. That's the reproof, the warning.
Yeah.
But instead of pulling over, you just put a piece of black tape over the light, you stiffen your neck, keep driving, and convince yourself everything is fine because you can't see the warning anymore.
But the engine is still melting down underneath the hood.
Exactly. And eventually it just seizes up entirely and you're stranded on the side of the road, broken beyond remedy.
And that sudden breakdown. The 19th century preacher Charles Spurgeon had this terrifying insight about it. He pointed out that it only looks sudden to the outside observer.
Because the warnings were always there.
Exactly. Spurgeon noted that God's mercy has a limit. Every single time that check engine light blinks, every reproof you get from a friend, your spouse, or just reality itself, it's a fresh extension of grace.
An opportunity to pull over.
Right. But eventually, the door closes. Spurgeon likened it to Pharaoh in Exodus.
Oh, wow.
A leader who just continually hardened his own heart against every single warning until he brought irreversible, catastrophic plagues on his whole nation.
But wait, let me push back on that a little bit, because in our culture today, we actually celebrate persistence.
We do, yeah.
We make movies about the underdog who refuses to listen to the critics, who just puts their head down and pushes through. So how do we tell the difference between being a principled, steadfast person and just being the stiff-necked ox heading for a cliff?
Well, the text actually anticipates that exact tension. It addresses the root motive directly in verse 23.
Oh, the wordplay part.
Yes. There's this brilliant Hebrew wordplay regarding pride. The word used is gavat, which comes from a root meaning to be high.
Okay.
The irony the proverb is pointing out is that this relentless, ego-driven desire to elevate yourself is the exact mechanism that brings you low. The word for being brought down is tashpalenu.
So it's about the motive. Principled steadfastness is rooted in a commitment to some external truth.
Exactly. Whereas being stiff-necked, this gavat, is just an obsession with the self. It's a fragile ego refusing to admit it might be wrong.
And that maps flawlessly onto modern psychology. The essay brings in Jordan Peterson's framework here, and it's super sobering.
Yeah, his take on the inflated self-image.
Right. Peterson argues that an inflated, inaccurate self-image will inevitably lead to a collapse because it's just fundamentally at odds with reality.
You can't outrun reality forever.
Exactly. The choice isn't whether you'll face the truth. The choice is how you'll face it.
Which is a terrifying thought.
It is. A voluntary confrontation with an uncomfortable truth, a reproof, allows you to adapt. But if you refuse, you guarantee a catastrophic, involuntary collapse forced on you by reality.
And reality is far less gentle than a spoken reproof.
So true. But, you don't just wake up at 40 years old with a stiff neck. This kind of destructive, fragile ego, it's a learned behavior.
Or a tolerated behavior.
Right. So we have to trace the anatomy of this stubbornness back to where it begins, which takes us from the individual adult straight into the living room.
The proving ground of the family.
Yeah.
Verse 15 shifts the focus to the next generation. It says, "The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother."
That phrase, "a child left to himself," is actually chilling when you look at the Hebrew word there. Mshulak.
Yeah, it literally translates to being let loose or abandoned to one's own devices.
Which is crazy because in modern parenting culture, leaving a child to entirely self-direct, like never imposing boundaries so they can discover their truth.
Oh, it's framed as the ultimate enlightened freedom today.
Right. But this ancient text depicts it as a literal form of abandonment.
And to understand why it's called abandonment, we really need to look at the two tools the proverb insists are necessary for socialization: shivet and tokachat.
Break those down for us.
So shivet translates to the rod. It represents authority, the physical or consequential boundary. It directly addresses the will of the child.
Okay, and the other one?
Tokachat is the verbal reproof, the reasoning. It addresses the mind.
So it's a holistic approach.
Exactly. The essay makes it clear that brute force without reasoning just breeds resentment. But endless talking without actual boundaries breeds contempt.
You need both to cultivate what they call chokmah, right? That deep-seated, life-ordering wisdom.
Not just behavioral compliance, but actual wisdom.
So it's not just about getting a kid to sit down and be quiet in a restaurant. It's about fundamentally shaping how they understand the universe.
Exactly.
The theologian Vadi Bauckham offers a really sharp critique in the essay about this. He says the modern rejection of discipline isn't some kind of progressive enlightenment. It's a massive, dangerous departure from foundational wisdom.
Yeah, and he points specifically to that warning about bringing shame to his mother.
Right, the maternal overindulgence.
Bauckham identifies this as the instinct to shield a child from any immediate discomfort. Sparing the child out of an excessive, misplaced tenderness.
Like helicopter parenting, almost.
Yeah, a parent might think they're being loving by removing consequences, but they are actually leaving the child defenseless against a world that will not cater to them.
Which brings Jordan Peterson back into the conversation with a really stark warning.
The age 4 rule.
Yes. He points out that if loving parents don't properly socialize and discipline their child by around age 4, they are effectively outsourcing that discipline to the world.
And the world does not love your child.
At all. If a child is meshulak, let loose without boundaries, their peers will reject them. Adults will avoid them. They face severe social isolation and develop antisocial behaviors just because no one else is willing to tolerate the ego the parents indulged.
And here's the scary part. What happens when those unsocialized, stiff-necked children grow up?
They don't just disappear.
No, they become the citizens of a nation. They become the politicians, the judges, the CEOs. The uncorrected behavior of the living room scales up and becomes the macro crisis of the national stage.
And that scales us perfectly up to verse 18. This has got to be one of the most famous and frankly frequently hijacked proverbs in existence. Where there is no prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint.
Oh, the hijacking of this verse usually centers entirely on that Hebrew word for vision, shazon.
You hear this in corporate seminars all the time.
Constantly. Completely divorced from its actual meaning. A CEO will stand up and say, "We need a 5-year strategic plan, we need visionary leadership, otherwise our company will cast off restraint."
It's treated like a motivational poster in a break room, like, if we just have a good enough mission statement, everyone will behave.
Right, but shozon is a highly specific technical term. It means authoritative divine revelation, a prophetic oracle.
Like Isaiah's visions.
Exactly. It is not about human foresight or strategic planning. It is about hearing directly from the divine order. When a society loses its connection to that transcendent truth, the text says the people, yapara.
Yapara. When I hear the translation cast off restraint for that word, I always picture driving down a massive 8-lane highway.
Okay.
Imagine someone erasing all the lane lines, taking down all the speed limit signs, turning off all the traffic lights, and claiming they are finally giving the drivers true freedom.
That sounds terrifying.
Right. People think they want absolute autonomy, but absolute autonomy on a busy highway isn't freedom. It's just a guarantee of a catastrophic, deadly pileup.
That is precisely the dynamic the biblical scholar N.T. Wright points out in the material. He argues that the divine word, the shazam, is performative.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning it actually paints the lane lines on the highway. It creates the necessary boundaries within which true human flourishing and freedom can safely exist.
Wow.
And the historical context of the word yapara proves how destructive the alternative is. It's the exact same root word used in the book of Exodus to describe the Israelites running completely naked, lawless, and out of control around the golden calf while Moses was delayed on the mountain.
So it literally means to be unbridled, stripped of all moral and spiritual boundaries.
Exactly.
And the scholar Michael Heiser takes the implications of losing that shazan even further into the supernatural realm.
He does, yeah.
He views shazan as the literal communication channel from the divine council. Without it, a society isn't just morally confused, they're spiritually naked. They're exposed to actual spiritual harm because the protective covering of divine truth is gone.
And when a society is completely untethered from divine truth like that, the corruption flows straight to the top. The essay connects this breakdown directly to verses 4 and 7, which detail the mechanics of corrupt governance.
Wait, I should probably pause here really quick and just give a disclaimer for you listening.
Good idea.
Because the text heavily discusses rulers and governance here. And commentators in our source, like Stephen Tong and Gary Hamrick, they do apply this to modern politics. But we are absolutely not taking any modern left-wing or right-wing political sides on this deep dive.
Right, not at all.
We are strictly reporting the ancient text's view that bad leadership is essentially a judgment on the people. Just want to make that unequivocally clear.
Absolutely. We're just looking at the historical theology here. And the text says a ruler disconnected from transcendent truth essentially begins to act like a false god.
How so?
The Hebrew text says they demand teramat. That's a word that normally refers to the sacred offerings meant exclusively for the priests and the divine.
So the corrupt politician isn't just asking for a financial bribe. Psychologically, they're demanding to be worshipped.
Exactly. They're taking what belongs to the divine and funneling it into their own pockets. It's the ultimate inversion of justice.
And the text contrasts that arrogance with the righteous leader in verse 7, right?
Yes. The righteous are described as having dat. That's an intimate, experiential knowledge of the plight of the poor.
Bishop Robert Barron likens that specific kind of knowledge to the Catholic principle of the preferential option for the poor.
Which is such a great way to frame it. True justice is not drafting some detached, abstract policy from a high-rise office. It requires actually stepping down into the dirt and intimately understanding the experience of the marginalized.
But this forces a really uncomfortable realization for all of us.
Yeah, it does.
If we know the stakes are this high, if we know that a stiff neck leads to ruin, that uncorrected kids face a hostile world, and that a society without divine vision devolves into chaos, why do we play along?
Why do we stay silent?
Exactly. Why do we sit in the board meetings or at the family dinner table, see things completely going off the rails, and just keep our mouths shut?
Well, Proverbs reveals the insidious root cause behind all of that passivity. It's because we care far too much about what other people think of us.
Verse 25 lays it totally bare. The fear of man brings a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord will be set on high.
The Hebrew words here are really diagnostic. The word for fear is shret.
Okay.
This is not just a mild social anxiety about wearing the wrong outfit to a party. It means a paralyzing terror, an anxious, consuming dread of human opinion.
And the text warns that this specific terror brings a mokesh, a trap or a snare.
Right, and the Bible teacher Derek Prince had a really profound insight into the nature of this mokesh. He said a snare is designed to be invisible. It doesn't look like a trap.
So we don't realize we're caught in it.
Exactly. Prince pointed out that we rarely admit we are terrified of human opinion. Instead, we rationalize our cowardice. We tell ourselves we're just being tactful or diplomatic or, sensitive to the room.
Oh, man, when really we are just deploying flattery to gain their approval and avoid conflict.
It is a profound self-deception. Ray Comfort, another commentator cited in the analysis, argues that this fear of man will literally superglue you to the pew.
Superglue you to the pew. I love that imagery.
You'll see the truth, you'll know the right course of action, but you will be physically incapable of moving. And his point is that you can't break this snare just by trying to muster up more willpower.
So what's the antidote?
The only antidote to the paralyzing fear of a crowd is replacing it with a far deeper, more reverent fear of God, coupled with a genuine love for the people you are so terrified of offending.
Because if you truly love someone, you'll risk the social embarrassment of telling them the truth, even if they hate you for it in the moment.
Exactly.
But wait, let me offer some strong pushback here. Because biologically speaking, isn't the fear of man just basic evolutionary survival?
How do you mean?
We are highly social creatures. Historically, if the tribe kicks us out, we don't just feel sad, we freeze, we starve, we die. So isn't seeking human approval literally hardwired into us to keep us alive?
The text actually anticipates that exact tension. Verse 27 answers it by forcing an absolute choice. It states that there is a cosmic antithesis, an irreconcilable mutual abomination between the righteous and the wicked.
Meaning there is no neutral ground.
Right. Yes, you are wired to need a tribe to survive. But because there's no neutral ground in the moral universe, you have to choose which tribe you are ultimately trying to survive within.
Oh, wow. You can't be approved by both systems?
Exactly. Seeking the approval of a corrupt system might grant you temporary survival, but it traps you in the snare.
While trusting the divine order places you in the Yusugov.
Precisely. Yusugov translates to being set on an inaccessibly high fortress. Charles Spurgeon noted the reality of this position. He said, trusting God and prioritizing divine truth over human flattery will almost certainly not make you popular.
It'll rarely make you comfortable either.
Right, but it will make you eternally safe.
Just look at the sheer psychological through line we have traced today. It is breathtaking how seamlessly it all connects.
It really is.
If you refuse correction and prioritize your ego, you harden your neck and invite sudden ruin. If you fail to discipline your kids, you breed folly and invite a hostile world to crush them. When a society loses its anchor to divine vision, it runs naked into a catastrophic pileup.
And at the absolute bedrock of all of that destruction is the Mokesh, the invisible snare of prioritizing human approval over divine truth. It's an ancient mirror that reflects our modern neuroses with terrifying accuracy.
It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final challenge to mull over today. Think about a decision you are putting off right now, or a conversation you are avoiding at work or at home.
We all have one.
We do. Are you waiting because you are genuinely seeking wisdom, or are you secretly caught in the Mokesh? Are you caught in the snare of the fear of man? If the absolute worst thing they can do is disapprove of you, ask yourself today, is their approval building you a fortress, or is it just another trap?